Hey, Yanis. So this here is Frederic's interview from last night. And as I think I messaged on WhatsApp at the time, this is kind of him writing his own slides. So he's a professor, and he's moved first to PJ Milani's course and then to yours. And this one got me thinking a little bit, and I'm going to spend some more time thinking on it before I make an action. But effectively, so he's a researcher and professor. About half of his work is writing articles, running research, and then the other half is kind of presenting this at conferences and teaching students. And so, as part of his work, it is always important to him to communicate more clearly. He's always looking at student feedback to make sure that he's communicating. Is he doing the best job he could be doing? He's also well aware that visuals and tables and things like that, when presented in research, is easier for people to understand. And so therefore he's got that kind of, you don't have to sell him on why he should do it. This one here, it's more about learning to get better. So like a few others, I think like Nikki and trying to remember now, I like to be more creative. I'm not very good at art. I'd love to learn how to make these visual ideas. I'm inspired and intrigued when I see this stuff. And so, this would be fun. And by the way, I think it probably could help me in my work. I don't have an immediate use case for it, but it'd be nice to use in the future. And that's kind of this piece here. So in this here, I found it interesting because he starts off by talking about how he'd like to learn how to draw. In fact, I think next he's going to go and take a drawing course. But actually, this is more about how do I get, why don't I just go and play around in this space? Why don't I sort of start dabbling in it? Let me see if I can get any better at it. Let me post it on LinkedIn just to see what feedback I get back. And it might lead to something new someday, but I don't have any immediate plans to use it for that. He's been on LinkedIn and Instagram with PJ. He's joined his newsletter since the end of last year. And so, again, this is entertainment. It's giving him instant inspiration. He said he bought a few books that PJ had recommended from his reading list. And at some point, he's learnt about this course towards the back end of last year. And he takes a look at it and thinks, this would be a good opportunity to learn something new. The structure in this case, possibly because he's a professor and he teaches for a living, but he's looking at it saying, okay, it's broken into logical sections. There's a live section. So he's actually drawn to the live session. He wants to be part of a group. He wants the opportunity to ask the instructor questions and to engage in real time, because I guess from his experience, he sees the value of doing that. Everything's broken out, so it tells you exactly what you're going to get, what's pre-recorded, what's going to be live, what resources and templates have you got. So everything's organized in terms of a sort of course curriculum, so you can see, okay, if I take this makes sense, tick, tick, tick. I'm going to get all the tools that I need to achieve this. And then there's all sorts of other resources that I'm going to get inside here as well. I'm not sure whether he knew that before or after he joined. But the process was something he was interested in, and so provided it sort of, it taught him or was going to teach him the process to come up with these ideas, that's fine. He did actually go shopping, so he went and had a look for others, and he found yours and a few others. At the time, he remembers these being about $100 cheaper than PJ's course, but because they didn't have live sessions, PJ's offering seemed like it was, it was a no-brainer for him. This isn't a massive amount of money for him. He thought it was fair because it had live sessions. Interestingly, like others, so others have not done this because of the time zone. He only did 2 out of the 6. However, he didn't mind. He thought that it had great value, and the Maven courses seem to let you rejoin live training sessions in the future if you've missed out on that. And there's some different times of the day. So having flexibility around the time zone, I think, could ease the pain for some people. He thought it was good value. He didn't ask any questions in the live sessions anyway, and it's kind of driven him with this sort of, just get going. Don't worry. Don't overthink this. Don't feel too embarrassed about your content. And then I've kind of put this in here at the moment, but I might make it into two. So, you know, again, he's been following you for a while. He liked yours. You know, he wanted more of the same. He wanted to see how you come up with your ideas. He wanted to learn your process and your thought behind this. So a lot of this is not necessarily learning the visuals. It's as much as it is learning how do you take an idea and turn it into a visual. And so, you know, this is kind of what's the new processes and all this sort of stuff here. So actually, I like, I can't remember which one we said it was. Maybe it was Akil's interview, because I think he also looked at PJs or joined PJs first. And I said, well, actually, at the time, those motivations are the same. The motivations haven't changed. And the reason I'm debating whether we do split them in two is because there's a difference between joining the live training and paying more money, and all of them then flip to joining your course at potentially the lower price point of this. And you know, for whatever reason, he's remembered it in euros, so 500 euros, but he paid $200 for the DIY. But he didn't know what questions he was going to ask. So like others that have gone through this thought process, I think Aditi thought that as well. It's like, oh, I could join that, but I don't know what I'm going to ask. And by the way, I joined one where I thought I was going to ask these things before and I didn't ask anything. So therefore, what's the point? And what am I going to get that's different from just the regular feedback that anybody gets on the DIY course? And this is why I think that there might be some cannibalization here. By giving away so much value in terms of feedback for free, why is somebody going to want to pay for one-on-one feedback? I just wait, I'm not in any urgent hurry. I'm only posting this on LinkedIn for fun anyway. So again, pushes, you know, I've seen the impact of visuals. I do create this stuff and it would be nice to make it easier to understand. I like to draw, but I don't have the skills. I'm a lifelong learner. I see a skill I'd like to learn. And I see a creator posting visuals and I'm inspired to create my own. And then this is all, you know, help me develop a new skill, let me learn the thought process so that, you know, I can do this stuff. You know, so I can be more creative. There seems to be a big desire amongst some of these students who have some creative like outlets or desires or you know, I'm trying to think what the right word is. It's almost like they're a artist waiting to be pulled out of their shell type thing, but they lack the drawing skills, so they don't want to do it. So can you help them out of their shell? I want the ability to engage. So I think the cohort piece came in here, and I've specifically put that in because I'm thinking about splitting these into two stories, one joining PJ's and one joining yours. Join something live, you know, again, this is important to him. Publish my work and get feedback on my ideas. Push out visuals and improve. So a lot of this is just about self-improvement. And trust this course is well structured and it's going to teach me everything I need to know. And then I don't think there were too many anxieties here. Are there cheaper courses available? Sorry, what's that? Oh, that's better. And, you know, I could keep coming up, creating written slides or reports here. So in this case here, I'll think about it. And then this morning I have interviewed Wes. He's also done both courses. So now we have a handful of people who have done both. And this is why the sort of pricing piece is coming up in my head. If I see something and I don't know how I'm going to use it, in this case the one-on-one sessions, then I don't see the value in paying for it. Whereas if I see something that's classroom-based, cohort-based, these are probably a little more familiar. We've all sat in classes in school or whatever, and so therefore I can think and imagine myself. I often think about the mental time travel people do when they shop. They're sort of sat here not buying, they're struggling, they want this new skill, but you know, they don't really want to let go of $300 or $400, and then they mentally project themselves into the future and just imagine what it will be like when they've bought this. And it's easy for him to imagine himself in a classroom setting, raising his hand saying, excuse me sir, how do I do X, or that I didn't understand Y, and getting value from that, probably because he's done this all his life if he's in academia. Whereas the sort of one-on-one piece, well, I don't have the ideas at the moment. I don't have the process to create the ideas at the moment. I don't know what I'm going to do once I've got them. And so therefore, I'll just join this cheaper course, You know, especially once he's started doing this, he's got a group of people who are giving him feedback. He's got all manner of things that are sat there that are going to help him to overcome the type of stuff that you'd get with the one-on-one. So that's why I think this is slightly different, and I'd be interested to hear your feedback on this, because as we analyse this, we might find that it's one group with one set of demands. But then, you know, why does somebody join a more expensive course? And I'm happy to debrief these a couple of times. Doesn't matter. We can we can go back and we can parse the specific pulls of so I can join a live course versus so I can get something cheaper, and that will probably pull these into two distinct groups, even though the bulk motivation is not dissimilar, and that'll help us say, well, what are the trade-offs people are making and why? You know, why would I spend $500, $400 and wake up at 2 a.m. versus, oh, actually, I'll just do a couple $100 and do it in a DIY approach, which was what drew him to your course. So anyway, I will pause it there. Hopefully it helps, and yeah, looking forward to hear what you've got to say about this one. Cheers. Right, so in this one here, I've had a look at Frederic, and having thought about it, and actually having run a few more interviews since, where we've had people who've taken both PJ's course and Yanis's course, I do think that there is a subtle difference, and I want to capture it. It may not come out in the groups, so these might both end up in a similar group because they are quite similar stories. But let's have a look and let's see, because there is a price difference, and so therefore, if there is a separate group and they're all people who paid more or less, that will teach us something. So in this case here, the switch is from PJ's course to Yanis's course. I've just kind of followed up on this. I'm not going to rehash reading this stuff out to anybody here. But in this one here, so there's still some things that are exactly the same. So I know visuals have got greater power, I create written slide content, I like drawing, so all this stuff, none of that changes from the first switch to the second switch. And neither does this. He sees Yanis and that draws him in, or pushes him to change and think, maybe I can do that. One big difference on the pushes is before he joined PJ's course, there was no LinkedIn visual posting. He's been doing it for 3 to 6 hours a week, and he's seen a good response. So there is something in this, and I'm going to go back to Akil's interview as well, have a look at his, as well as a few later. But pre-PJ's course, a lot of these people have not been posting something on LinkedIn. Afterwards, they then use this. They get the traction that they were looking for, but the process is hard, it's complex, it's difficult. And maybe that's when I see someone posting simpler visuals than I am posting and to learn how they do it. Something like that. So there's this kind of, I'm putting this stuff out there, but it's taking time. I'm spending 3 to 6 hours a week. Yes, I'm getting a bit more traction. It's not for the traction. Like he's not doing it for that. But there's a bit of a frustration about the time put in, and then you see a different way and think, wow, maybe I should learn that. Other ones in the pools, not different. Learning thought processes, get a new skill. It's still fun for me to do it. That's not changed at all. Still want to be more creative and express that side of me. Now, in this case, he's changed from so I can join a course and ask the questions and so I can learn from other people and all this other stuff, to I want to do this in my own time, at my own pace. I'm no longer interested in joining a course on there. Still wants to publish his work, get feedback. I need a different perspective, so this is something new. Again, it's like I've learned one way, now I need to learn another. Does that change from learning this one here? I don't know, they might belong together. And then, constructive criticism about this. So there is very subtle differences in here. The anxieties in this case drive him towards the cheaper option. He could retake PJ's course, he could keep posting what he's posting already. So there's very subtle differences here. I think we might see this, so having gone through other interviews as well, I'm coming back and saying, okay, let's catch both of these switches. We've got 2 stories, so we may as well use 2 stories. And that is one of the benefits of running these interviews. Sometimes you get multiple stories in one interview. So, here's the subtle differences that I'm mapping out here. I'll do the same for a keel. I'll do the same for... I'll have to have a look and make sure I've got everybody who has used both of these courses. And let's see, do they separate correctly? Do they separate into two buckets? Or is this just one set of motivations, two different price points, and someone's willing to pay more for an in-person class than they are for an online class? I don't know. It's the beauty of this research, but let's pull all the data that we've got. Let's see what we can get out of it, and let's take it from there. Cheers.